already know, my name is Debbie, and my channel is Home at Serenity Springs. You would think, since it's my channel, that I could say it correctly, but you know how that goes. I've been doing a video series on Wife 101, and I think this is the third installment in this series. And yes, I'm driving. It's easier for me to record my videos right now while I drive. With so many dogs in our house, it's always noisy when I try to video from home, and I just haven't figured out a good solution for that yet. So this is what it is. This particular video is going to be on asking about our husband's opinion on various things that we wives tend to neglect caring, or even maybe just not thinking that it should be a thing. And I'm going to cover, I think, 3, if not 4 areas that we tend to neglect considering what our husband thinks. And the first one is in the area of finances. I think it's one of the biggest ones that can be covered, and I don't think very many biblical Christian women cover it on their channels or in their blogs. For those who've been following me, you know that I am a Bible-believing Christian, and I don't try to modernize what the Bible says about women's roles. I just take it as it says it, and I don't try to contextualize it to modern day society, because I think God is a big God, and He knew, of course, where society would be and where it's going to be going from here. And I think He gave us applicable commands, especially since He repeated certain commands that relate to women and their roles more than once in the New Testament. And when you even take the Bible as a whole, those roles are confirmed in the whole of Scripture, which is also important. So in the area of finances, I think that the husband is in charge of the household, the whole household, but we're talking about finances first. And as such, I know that there are some women like myself who are the ones who do the budget and the ones that actually physically pay the bills, write checks or pay them online, as the case may be. And that's okay if that is a role that our husband has allotted to us and that he doesn't mind us having that role. However, if it's a role that we have usurped from him and he would actually prefer to be the one to do it, then he needs to be the one to do it, and we need to concede that to him. And also, I think that it is wrong and sinful for women to plan things financially or buy things. I'm not talking about going to Walmart and spending $20 or $30 or $40. I'm talking about regular output of purchases that adds up to quite a bit of money if we weren't to do it. I think things like that should be consulted with our husbands to make sure that he doesn't mind us spending where we spend. And the comical hiding it from the husband purchases, I think, is wrong for Christian women to do, and I don't think that should be a thing. If we are hiding purchases from our husbands, we probably don't need to be spending that money, and we need to buck up and do the right thing and talk to our husbands about if it's okay to do that ahead of time. And if he doesn't like it, and if it's not something that he approves of, then I think that we need to stop those purchases. Women tend to spend a lot of money frivolously, and I know that there are men that do too, but I'm not talking to men, I'm talking to women. And we spend a lot of money on ourselves, which leads me to point number 2, our appearance. This is one of the things that just baffles me about Christian women, because it's like we don't understand that our husbands are attracted to certain things about us. They're attracted to certain clothes that we wear and not attracted at all to others. They're attracted to certain ways that we wear our hair and maybe even repulsed by others. And I believe that one way that we can submit to our husbands and honor him, actually it's more of an honoring thing, which I think is important for us to do, is be honoring in our hearts of our husbands, is to like verbally ask him his opinion about our appearance. How does he like our hair? Does he prefer it long? Does he prefer it short? Does he even like it when we highlight it and all the things that women tend to do these days to their hair? And that costs a lot of money to upkeep. And I think we should honor what his preferences are to the best of our abilities. And if he says he doesn't care, I would dig a little deeper, because I tend to think that some husbands are just henpecked and they're afraid to tick us off. And we're so emotionally responsive when they give a negative opinion that they've been trained to have a positive opinion. But as mature Christian wives, I think that we should be able to handle if our husband says he doesn't like something without falling apart, and embrace the things that he does like. And if he says he doesn't care, then double check and say that you're not going to get offended, that you really truly want to know, and you promise that you're not going to say anything or jump on him if he says he doesn't like our current hairstyle. And there's just some women, and I know it's convenient, especially if you're a mother. I'm a mother of 4, and I know that it can be complicated to deal with longer hair, but I think it's worth the effort if that's something that our husband's truly attracted to. And some women just go and whack it all off, irregardless of what our husband thinks. And that's the part that astounds me, because personally, I want to be attractive to my husband, and if he likes long hair, which he does, I'd rather that I'm the one that catches his eye because my hair is like he likes it, than for somebody else to catch his eye. And I'm not excusing behavior in men. I'm just saying preferences are a real thing, and I want to be the one fulfilling his preferences. And the same thing goes with clothing choices. And I think that women tend to a lot of times fall between 2 extremes. We either spend way too much money to stay in style, which I personally find overkill, extravagant, and unnecessary. I wear my clothes for a long time before I get rid of them, unless I find that I'm not liking them anymore. But I never buy my clothes new. It's rare. Maybe 3 to 5% of my wardrobe I bought new, if that. The rest I buy secondhand. And you can look pretty, you can look cute, even fashionable if you want, at a much cheaper price than shopping new clothing. And I know that there's certain items that need to be purchased new because they're hard to find used, like good bras and things like that. I'm not talking about that. But we tend to fall on one end of the spectrum. We're either really frumpy and we make hardly any effort to wear something nice a lot of the time, or we're excessively overdressed. And I don't think most men prefer either extreme. I know there's some men who like their women to be quite dressed up when they go out on the town or out on a date, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about a style of dressing during the rest of your life, not special occasions. And I've read lots of books and I've seen lots of polls that have been asked of men, and I have watched lots of videos of men being questioned on the streets about their preferences. And the vast, vast, vast majority of them do not even like all of the frills that we indulge in all of the time. They don't like the 6-inch fingernails. They don't like the caked on makeup. They don't really like all of the excessive clothing. A lot of men are very simple in their tastes, and we could save a lot of money if we asked their preference and tried to honor their wishes. And one of those areas, like I just mentioned, is in makeup. Personally, I don't wear a lot of makeup. I refuse to wear foundation, even if it would make my coloring more even or make my skin look better. I have pretty good skin. God has blessed me with, and it's good enough. And I'm kind of a health nut with what I put in my body and on my skin, and that's one of the things I can't stand the thought of, because even if you have a good facial cleanser, it is clogging your pores. There is no way that is not clogging your pores, and you can tell in women who wear foundation all the time that their skin is just not really clean ever. It doesn't ever look truly clean. And I'll wear, like I'm going to the chiropractor, and I have on a little bit of eye makeup and a dab of light pink lipstick, and that's about as fancy as I get, and my husband likes that. Occasionally, like once a year, he's asked that I put on eyeliner when we go on a date, and I do it, but it's not something that he even wants me to have on all the time. So the point of that is, ask your husband, how does he like your hair? How does he really like it in his heart? What is he attracted to? How does he like your makeup? Does he even like you in makeup? What kind of clothes does he like to see you in? And honor that when he's there. I have some things that my husband doesn't prefer, and I wear them when he's not there. And when he's there, I try to have on things that he's at least mildly appreciative of. And it's harder to do when you're a mom, and have little ones running around, but you can find a way to be at least on the low end of the spectrum of what he likes when he's around. And another way that women tend to go to two extremes is with their modesty standard. And I know that it's almost taboo these days to even talk about modesty, even within the Christian circles, but I think that the Bible does have things to say about that, and so I'm going to address it. I'm sure that your husband has a preference on how modest he wants you to be when he's around and when he's not around. And women tend to either be completely immodest with no thought to what they're presenting to the public when they go out, or they tend to be almost cult-like. And I'm not trying to insult you if you are on the extreme modest end, but I know that when it's not a family decision to be extremely modest and always covered from head to toes, almost with long dresses and long sleeves and high necklines, if it's not a family decision, a lot of times the husband doesn't like it, and that's not what he's attracted to. So I think that we can, because the Bible is not specific, it does say that we are expected as Christian women to have a standard of modesty, and so that by definition, that means there are things that are acceptable and there aren't things that are acceptable. And so I think that we can adjust the way that we dress to our husband's preferences to respect how he feels. And for example, early in our marriage, before we walked as closely with God as we do, my husband's preference was for me to be almost extremely immodest. And when we went out on dates, I would honor that to a certain extent. And now that I walk more closely with God, I feel ashamed of that because I think that it was too far on that end. I should have reached a compromise with what he preferred and what makes me comfortable and gone slightly more modest than I dressed. And I'm talking like 28, almost 30 years ago. But I think that we can, especially for women who are on the extremely modest side, if it's not something that your husband prefers, and guess how you're going to know? You're going to have to verbally ask him what he prefers and honor his wishes to the best of your ability. Sometimes we let our preferences and our convictions override what our husbands prefer when it's not black and white in the Bible. So my advice to you would be to just ask your husband and try to do what he prefers. In doing these things where we honor his opinion, he is going to feel more respected, which is super important to men, and honored. And he is going to be a better husband eventually because of it. I promise you that when we're doing what we're supposed to do, they normally rise to the challenge unless they're narcissists or egomaniacs, which are real things. This probably wouldn't help that particular personality at all. So this is not even really applicable to women who are married to that kind of man. But most of us have regular men who just have flaws, and they normally rise to the occasion when we respect their opinions. The next area we tend not to ask our husband's opinion or honor the way he is in spirituality. And my videos are aimed at Christian women, and we tend to be more outwardly spiritual and religious than men in general. And a lot of times men are more quiet about their faith, and because of that, we tend to run roughshod over them in that area. And I think the main point that I want to make about this is that as wives, we shouldn't be nagging or demanding or complaining to our husbands or to people around us that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, that they're not reading their Bible enough, that they're not doing devotions with us, that we wish they would do this and we wish that were different. It's never productive to nag. It's never productive to show our dissatisfaction with our husbands because it doesn't inspire them to change. The best thing that we can do as wives, if our husbands aren't doing things that we wish they were, like devotions with us or with the children, or praying with us or with the children, is to commit it to God in prayer and hope that God changes him. But sometimes, because there are different personality styles, sometimes our husbands are just the type of man who are more quiet and introverted, shy, and they're not ever the type that does some of those things, and we have to just accept it and be content with such things as we have, like Scripture commands us to be willing to accept him spiritually for who he is. And not that there's anything wrong with having spiritual discussions with your husband, but not in the context of wanting to change him, but just in the context of discussing passages or discussing the Bible or asking him something, what he believes about something or whatever. And we can honor him best by just committing our dissatisfaction to prayer and to outwardly expressing acceptance of our husbands as they are in that area. The next area that we wives tend to not consult our husbands, and this is huge, is in decorating our homes. And I know that some husbands, and maybe even a lot of husbands, could care less about the decor in our homes. But sometimes certain things matter to them, and because we never ask them, or we just fluff off their little comments that they make, we don't really know. So I think as wives, we should ask them their preferences in paint color if we're going to redo our home. I really don't think we should get rid of favorite pieces of theirs. There's the old joke about us getting rid of their favorite recliner while they're gone. I don't think we should do that. I don't think it's honoring to our husbands. They're allowed to have furniture preferences, and we don't have to have a Southern living houses, regardless of what HGTV tries to tell us. I used to be the biggest HGTV fanatic there was, and I did find that it made me dissatisfied with what I had, so I had to quit watching it. And you can tell which women watch those kind of things all the time, because they're the ones that are selling their like new sofas on the buy, sell, and trade pages all the time. And it's just not necessary. We don't have to have high style houses. They just have to be functional. I think God would want us to make them homey and comfortable and inviting, but not if we have to ignore our husband's preferences in the process. We live in a manufactured home, and the walls are made of some kind of wallboard, and it gets stains, like oily stains on it really easily when you have kids and grandkids and dogs. And so we're going to actually have to functionally repaint before too long. It's actually on my list of goals for the year. And I picked out a bunch of paint chips, and I showed them to my husband, and he got rid of the ones that he actually absolutely didn't like, and he let me pick from what was left. And I think that that's a good way to do it, because they get input, they feel like a part of our home, like they're supposed to, and they feel included. And I think we should do that with anything big that we redo to our home. And if it doesn't hurt to ask if our husbands like our decor. I've noticed a lot of women, married women, redo their master bedrooms, and it looks girly when they're done. And I know that 90% of the husbands hate it, like just absolutely hate it. And in my opinion, especially a master bedroom and the place where they sit, like a living room or a den or a bonus room, it needs to be an equal reflection of both of our tastes. They sleep in the master bedroom with us, and I'm pretty sure that a good number of them have an opinion about how they would like it to look, and I don't think girly is at the top of their list. So just consult him, ask him his opinion, and value it. It's really the point of this whole video, is to value our husband's opinion about things to the point that we're willing to either do or not do certain things in order to include him in our decisions. And to not be the type of wife who goes about her life almost parallel, separately but together. I know that happens a lot because intimacy is frankly hard work and it's daily work. But in August we'll have been married 30 years, and I can tell you that the daily work is worth it. And I've said it before, sometimes only one person in the couple is doing the right thing, and that's okay. Because the only person we can change is ourselves. And we should strive daily to be better wives. We should strive daily to more closely adhere to biblical principles in our lives. And to listen to wise counselors who know what those biblical principles are. So I think that's about it. Have some talks with your husband, or start having some talks with your husband. If you don't, start asking him for his opinion, and hopefully you will reap many good benefits and blessings to your marriage because of it. Y'all have a good day and see you next time.